producers have gone to feeding large round bales, we have seen the amount of hay wasted during the feeding process increase. We see the worst case scenario being where animals have free access to the hay. The hay gets pulled out, it gets stepped on, it gets pushed down in the mud, it gets manure on it, and we actually even in some cases see the animals making a bed out of it. In some cases we even see where the hay is in a muddy area, and of course that just seems to increase the amount of wastage that we have. I think all producers need to try every way that they possibly can to reduce the amount of wastage. Most of the research indicates that putting some type of device around the hay seems to reduce the amount of wastage. There is considerable differences in the type of feeders available. Some recent work conducted at Michigan State University compared cone feeders, ring feeders, feeding from a trailer, and also feeding from a cradle. The data that they got using mature beef cows showed that the cone type feeder had less waste than any of the four that were compared. The wastage there was about 3.5%, the ring was 6.1%, the trailer was over 11%, the cradle increased up to about 14.6% wastage. Don't know exactly why this wastage increased so much using a trailer or the cradle. The researchers speculated maybe that it was simply the position of the animals when they were eating the hay. When they were using a cone type feeder or the ring, they were in a more grazing type situation, where if they were using the cradle feeder or the trailer, they were standing up and they seemed to pull more hay back out and then drop it on the ground. So, you know, ideally from that data, we'd all say, well, let's go out and buy the cone feeders, but we have found that the cost of these feeders is considerably higher than the ring type feeders. So I suspect many people are going to be looking more at the ring feeders than any of these other methods. We've done a little bit of work using the cone feeders here in Tennessee, down in Moore County, and their results seem to be very similar to what the folks at Michigan State did find. But I think this data does show very vividly that we do need to do something to try to reduce the amount of wastage. And the big thing is putting some type of device around the hay so the animals do not have full access. Just a few tips as we think about the actual feeding. If we will limit the amount of hay that we're providing for the cattle, this will help out. If there's a lot of extra hay, seems like we end up having more wastage. So just put out what they're going to be cleaning up in 24 to 48 hours rather than putting out a week's supply at one time. As we've indicated, putting the hay in a feeder is very desirable. That will reduce the waste considerably. Something else that will help a lot, and that is wait until the cattle consume the hay that's in that feeder before the ring is moved and we put additional hay in. Now, a decision does have to be made here. This is where management comes in. Once they've got all the good hay and all they've left is just stems, we don't want to be making the animals consuming that. But many times we get in too big a hurry. We will just lift the ring up, put another bale down before they've cleaned it up, and of course that does contribute quite a bit to the wastage. We also need to be very conscious of where we're feeding the hay. If that area is starting to get muddy, maybe we need to move on to a different area. Many producers have found that probably the solution to this is to construct some type of feeding pad, maybe using gravel and geotextile. This does seem to work well in keeping animals up out of the mud and does help reduce the overall wastage. Something else that people normally don't think about is some of these cows with aggressive behavior can end up causing wastage to be quite a bit higher. If you have one kind of boss cow that's always just coming in there and butting another cow back away from the feeder, generally that cow that gets butted back is going to have a mouthful of hay and will probably drop it on the ground. So if we've got some cows that are just very, very aggressive, seems to always keep things in turmoil, hey, that might be justification for culling that animal. So again, that's just something else to think about and to observe while we're actually seeing the animals consuming the feed. In summary, I think we must reduce the amount of wastage that we've got. This hay is just too expensive from a fertilizer standpoint, harvesting standpoint, and also the labor of putting it out. So again, do everything we possibly can to reduce the amount of wastage. If you'd like additional details on reducing hay wastage, please contact your local extension agent.